Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. I hope everyone had a wonderful Christmas and a safe New Year. I took a bit of a break, but I am back today showing you how to make my gluten-free pâte à choux, which can then be made into a number of things. Think cream puffs, profiteroles, Perry breast, eclairs, even churros. But today I'm just going to fill them with a simple creme patissiere or pastry cream. They're actually really easy to make. So let's get into it and I'll show you just how easy it is to do. Okay, to make the choux paste, we first have to cook part of it, and this is called the panade, which is basically like a really thick roux. Add 120 ml each, or a half a cup of both water and whole milk to a small saucepan, and 1 tablespoon or 12 grams of sugar. And then add just a pinch of salt and butter that's been cubed up. The butter is 113 grams or a half a cup. And we'll just turn the stove on to a medium-low heat and stir it occasionally. The sugar does not make the dough at all sweet. It's just there for browning purposes. Don't be tempted to increase the heat because we really want to make sure the butter has melted before the mixture begins to boil. Okay, this butter has melted. So now we can increase the heat to medium-high. And as soon as it starts to boil, shut off the heat and dump in 140 grams or 1 cup of my gluten-free bread flour blend all at once and stir immediately. Now I've made this with both my all-purpose blend and my bread flour blend, and I find the bread flour actually creates a more stable and crispy puff. So that's not to say that the all-purpose flour blend didn't work. It was still excellent and very good results, but I just prefer personally the bread flour blend. And a lot of other people use a regular like wheat-based bread flour as well. So it's up to you whichever one you want to use. Okay, as you can see, I've been stirring this together as quickly as possible, and I've turned the heat back on to medium, and I'm going to continue to stir this and basically smush it, technical term, onto the bottom of the pan and constantly move it around. If there are any lumps of flour, I want to get those out by smushing it. And all we're trying to do at this point is to cook out as much of the excess moisture as we possibly can, which will help with the structure of the choux paste for whatever you want to use it for. So once you start seeing this film, see this film on the bottom of the pan, you can take it off the heat, and I'm going to dump it right into the bowl of my stand mixer. You can also use a handheld mixer for this, or even a wooden spoon, although your arm is going to get quite a workout with a wooden spoon because you do have to mix this for a significant amount of time, and I'll explain that in a minute. Let the mixture cool for a minute or two before adding the eggs. So while that's happening, I've got my 5 eggs here. And these are large eggs and they're at room temperature. And I'm just whisking them together pretty vigorously because I don't want them to be gloppy. I don't know how else to describe it other than gloppy, but it's basically when the white is still intact, and no one wants that. I mean, let's be real. So now we'll just get this mixing and make sure it's not still steaming hot. I can still feel heat, but it's not too hot that the steam is like burning my hand. So start the mixer on low and stream in about a whole egg's worth at a time. You know, you don't have to be perfect in this. We're just going for roughly. And let that mix in before adding the next amount. And like I said, I have 5 large eggs in here, but I may or may not need all of them. Generally, you won't need more than 5, but 5 does seem to be the magic number when I'm using my own bread flour blend. Okay, I'm going to stop this now, and I want to show you. See, this is way too thick here. You want there to be some like movement in the dough, not fluid-like, but at least some movement. So I'm going to go ahead and add the rest of what's left in this measuring cup, which is about an egg's worth, and I'll just keep mixing. Okay, stopping it again. This still looks pretty thick, right? but there is a little bit of movement. I'm going to actually keep mixing this for a few more minutes, maybe like 2 to 3, and we'll see where we're at. Okay, now look at it. When I pull the mixer blade up, it's much more fluid, although not excessively. It kind of holds a V shape, which is what it's supposed to do, off the end of the blade. It's not extremely fluid-like though, so I am at a good point here. If you were to add any more egg at this point, it would honestly be too runny. So I'm just going to put this in a pastry bag, and I fitted my pastry bag with a large round opening. It's a Wilton 1A, number 1A, and this is what I love using. It's actually meant for piping eclairs, but if you turn it over, you can also use it for cream puffs, and I'll leave a link below for this. You can also just use regular old parchment. So to pipe, start basically at a 90-degree angle to the sheet pan and squeeze to your desired size. I'm making little ones here, so I'm going to stop now and then flick your wrist a little bit and pull up. It might take a little practice, and I clearly need more practice, but even if they have a point, we're going to fix that anyway. If you want to make them larger than this, feel free to make them larger. You won't get quite as many puffs out of it, but you can definitely make them larger. Now that they're all piped, take your finger and just dab it in a little bit of water and press down lightly on those points. And then the last thing to do before putting them in the oven is I sprinkle them very lightly with powdered sugar. And what this does is it actually allows them to rise more evenly. Okay, we're going to bake these at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for 5 minutes and then turn the heat down to 375 and continue to bake them for an additional 20 minutes. These are right out of the oven after the initial 25 minutes. And right now I'm going to poke a hole in the bottom while they are still hot. And I'm using a paper towel because they are so hot. I like to use a chopstick for this because it's the perfect size for the filling nozzle or tip to fit in. So just turn the oven off now and put them back in the turned off oven with the door cracked or propped open if yours doesn't stay open, and let them cool in the oven. And this is going to dry them out further and keep them nice and crisp. Alrighty, we've got several things we could stuff these with, but my favorite is a simple crème pâtissière or pastry cream. So to start, we'll put 1 cup or 240 ml each of whole milk and heavy cream in a small saucepan, and we're going to get this on the heat over a medium-low flame until it comes to a simmer. So meanwhile, I've got a bowl here, and I'm going to whisk together a 1/2 cup or 100 grams of granulated sugar and a 1/4 cup or 30 grams of cornstarch. And I'm going to add to that 6 large egg yolks and whisk this until it's smooth and lighter in color, like a lemon yellow color. Make sure not to do this part in advance because the sugar can actually cook the egg yolks, and you'll end up with little bits of cooked egg yolk, and no one wants that in their smooth pastry cream, right? The milk mixture is simmering now, so we can temper the egg yolks by adding a little bit of the hot milk into the egg yolks while whisking vigorously, and then a little bit more, and just keep slowly pouring in that hot milk mixture until all of it has been added. And then I like to pour the whole thing right back into the saucepan, and we'll get this right on the stove over a medium heat, and make sure to whisk constantly, otherwise the bottom will scorch. And you want to do this until it begins to bubble and spurt like almost like it burps. And once you see the little spurts or burps, continue whisking for another 30 seconds to a minute should be good, at least 30 seconds, because that is what will activate the cornstarch. If you don't do this step, you may end up with a soupy or runny pastry cream. All right, you guys, we have reached the end of our pastry cream, just about. I like to sieve mine right back into the bowl I started with, because y'all know how I absolutely hate doing dishes, even if they go in my dishwasher because I use so many of them daily. Running the pastry cream through a sieve will also catch any egg yolk bits that you might have cooked, and you really want it nice and perfectly smooth. Like, this looks so luscious, doesn't it? I could just eat it with a spoon. It's basically pudding. It's vanilla pudding. Okay, so adding butter is totally optional. I am actually doing it here. This is 28 grams or 2 tablespoons, but I don't always, especially if I want an extra firm pastry cream. And of course, don't forget the vanilla. I'm using my homemade vanilla, which has the seeds in it, and this is about, I don't know, a tablespoon or more, give or take. Whisk that all in, and then just cover it directly with plastic wrap right on the surface to make sure a skin doesn't form on top. And we'll pop this in the fridge to chill for at least 2 hours. Okay, now we are ready to fill these babies. I put my pastry cream in a piping bag, and I'm using, this is a Bismarck tip. It's number 230, and see how it fits perfectly in these holes I made? So I'm squeezing out until I feel each cream puff getting heavier. And then just stop and pull the tip out. And if there's any that came out of the hole, just wipe it off. And that's all there is to it, y'all. It is so easy. And like I said, this can be made into a number of different treats, which I will eventually post more of as time goes on. Like eclairs. I know everybody's going to ask me about eclairs, but eclairs are the biggest ones. You can hear just how crunchy they are on the outside. And then look at that smooth as ever pastry cream. So, so good, you guys. Enjoy.